There was a man named Mr. Silas. He was not a particularly special man to look at. He wore a plain gray coat and simple black shoes. But Mr. Silas had a secret. It was a peculiar, twitchy sort of secret that lived just behind his eyes. Sometimes when he was walking or reading his newspaper, he would get a feeling. It was a cold, prickly sensation that crawled up his spine like a spider. This feeling was a messenger. It whispered to him that something dreadful, something quite awful was about to happen. He never knew what it would be, or when, only that it was coming very, very soon, and he was always right. On this particular Tuesday, a bright and breezy day, Mr. Silas was walking down a busy street. The sun was shining, birds were singing, but the cold, prickly feeling had just arrived. It started in his toes and was now doing a little dance on his shoulders. He looked around, his eyes darting from one thing to another. Everything seemed perfectly normal. Cars were driving past, people were chatting. There was no sign of any trouble at all. Yet the feeling grew stronger, more insistent. It was a dreadful warning, a silent scream inside his head that something, somewhere, was about to go terribly wrong. He saw a group of men standing by the edge of the pavement. They were construction workers, covered in dust, laughing and sharing a joke during their break. They were leaning against a low brick wall, dangerously close to the speeding traffic. The prickly feeling in Mr. Silas became a sharp jab, a poke in his ribs. He knew, with a certainty that chilled him to the bone, that the danger was for them. He had to do something. He couldn't just stand by and watch. That was the curse of his strange ability. He was compelled to act, to interfere with what was about to unfold. Mr. Silas quickened his pace, his heart thumping like a drum against his ribs. He approached the men, his face pale. "You must move," he said, his voice a little shaky. "Please, step away from the road. Go now." The men looked at him, their laughter fading. They saw the genuine fear in his eyes. One of them shrugged, and they all took a few steps back, away from the curb, mostly to humor the strange little man. No sooner had they moved than a blue car, traveling far too fast, swerved violently. It mounted the pavement exactly where they had been standing, crashing into the brick wall with a sickening crunch of metal and stone. Shaken but unharmed, the men stared at the wreckage, then back at Mr. Silas. They looked at him with a mixture of awe and fear, as if he were some sort of magician. But Mr. Silas didn't wait for their questions or their thanks. The prickly feeling had not gone away. In fact, it had shifted, moving to a new spot, a new focus. He hurried on, leaving the chaos behind him. He knew his work was not yet done. The day held more horrors in store, and his strange internal compass was now pointing him further down the street towards a small park where the next piece of nastiness was waiting to happen. He saw them from a distance. Two small children, a boy and a girl, laughing as they played a game of tag. Their game had led them right up to a large gray metal box that hummed with a low, menacing power. It was an electrical transformer. It had a yellow sign with a black lightning bolt on it, a clear warning of the danger within. The children, lost in their innocent fun, paid it no mind, but Mr. Silas felt it. The prickly sensation was now a burning heat on his skin, an urgent alarm bell ringing only for him. The hum of the transformer seemed to grow louder in his ears, a prelude to something violent. He knew he had to be careful. If he shouted, he might startle them, perhaps even cause them to stumble into the very thing he feared. So he approached them quietly, almost like a shadow. He crouched down to their level, his face serious. "Hello there," he whispered, his voice soft but firm. "That is not a good place to play. The buzzing box is very poorly today. I think you should run to that big oak tree over there as fast as you can. Make it a race." He tried to make it sound like a game, a new challenge for them to enjoy. The children, intrigued by this strange whispering man, looked at each other and then at the tree. The idea of a race was exciting. With a shared giggle, they turned and sprinted away from the humming box, their little legs pumping as they ran across the grass. Mr. Silas watched them go, his breath held tight in his chest. A moment later there was a deafening bang. A flash of brilliant blue light erupted from the transformer. It exploded with incredible force, sending sparks and smoke billowing into the air. The children were safe, giggling under the distant tree, completely unaware of the doom they had so narrowly escaped. Mr. Silas did not stay to watch the aftermath. He simply turned and continued his walk, his gray coat blending into the afternoon shadows. The burning sensation had faded, but the cold, prickly feeling remained, a faint but constant companion. It was no longer sharp or urgent, but it was there, a low hum of anxiety in the back of his mind. He felt tired. This gift, or curse, was exhausting. It was like carrying a heavy weight that no one else could see. He just wanted the feeling to go away, to leave him in peace, to let him be just a normal man walking down a normal street. It was then that he heard it, or rather, didn't hear it. An ambulance was approaching from behind. It was moving slowly, its blue lights flashing rhythmically, but its siren was silent. This was unusual. Ambulances were usually in a great hurry, screaming their way through the traffic. This one crept along the road like a predator stalking its prey. As it passed him, he looked at it, and the most peculiar thought entered his head. The prickly feeling returned, but this time it was different. It was personal. He felt with a strange and chilling certainty that the silent ambulance was meant for him. He could not explain it. The idea was completely illogical. He was perfectly fine. He hadn't been in a car crash. He hadn't been near an exploding transformer. Yet, the feeling was undeniable. The slow, silent procession of the emergency vehicle felt like a premonition all of its own. It was as if fate was showing him a little glimpse of his own future, a future that was fast approaching. The ambulance continued down the street and turned a corner, disappearing from sight, but the image of its silent, flashing lights was burned into his mind. A sense of dread washed over Mr. Silas. He felt exposed, vulnerable. The street suddenly seemed like a very dangerous place to be. He needed to get indoors, to find somewhere safe where nothing could possibly happen to him. He looked around and saw a small hardware shop just ahead. It looked solid and dependable, a sanctuary of wood and metal and glass. Surely inside a shop, surrounded by walls and a sturdy roof, he would be safe from the terrible things this day seemed determined to throw at him. He decided to go inside and wait until this awful feeling finally left him for good. Mr. Silas pushed open the heavy door of the hardware shop and stepped inside. The air was cool and smelled of paint and sawdust. It was quiet. The shopkeeper was at the back, busy with some stock. Mr. Silas felt a wave of relief. This was safety. This was a place where accidents did not happen. To be polite, he held the door open for a moment, thinking perhaps someone was behind him. It was a heavy, old-fashioned door, made of solid steel with a small glass window. He held it by its edge, his fingers resting on the cool metal frame, feeling secure for the first time that day. In that single moment, a sudden freakish gust of wind slammed down the street. It was a powerful invisible force that rattled the shop signs and sent dust swirling into the air. The wind caught the heavy steel door that Mr. Silas was holding. It wrenched it from his grasp and slammed it shut with the force of a guillotine. Mr. Silas cried out, a sharp, piercing sound of pure agony. He stared down at his hand in disbelief. The door had closed directly on his finger, severing the tip completely. The pain was immense, a white-hot fire that shot up his arm. He stumbled back into the shop, clutching his hand, blood dripping onto the floorboards. The shopkeeper rushed forward, his face a mask of horror. Through the haze of pain, Mr. Silas heard a faint sound from outside. It was a sound that was growing steadily louder. It was the sound of an engine. He looked through the small glass window in the very door that had injured him. He saw the flashing blue lights first. Then, the white vehicle came into view, turning back around the corner it had just taken. It was coming back for him. The slow, silent ambulance pulled up directly outside the shop. Its journey had not been long at all. The paramedics came rushing inside, their faces calm and professional. They had a patient to attend to. As they gently tended to his wound, Mr. Silas looked past them, out at the waiting vehicle. He understood now. You could see a disaster coming for others. You could warn them, help them, and push them out of harm's way. But you could never see the one that had your own name on it. It just arrives, silently and without warning, exactly when it is meant to.